You're welcome to the Economy and Politics Conversation. I'm Ottoabasi Abasiekong. This edition will discuss the 2024 Nigeria Tax Reform Bill, socio-economic implications. Joining me virtually for this conversation is Dr. Muda Yusuf, CEO, Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise, and Mrs. Yunis Igwe-Bernard, a Senior Tax Manager, Tax Department, SIAO Partners. It's nice to have you on the program, Mrs. Yunis.
Thank you very much, Mr. Otto.
Dr. Muda Yusuf, it's nice to have you back again on the program. Nice to see you.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
So, Mrs. Yunis, what is your perspective on the 2024 tax reform bill as a tax professional? Does this simplify the country's current tax regime and improve the ease of tax payments?
As a tax personnel, the current tax bill does simplify tax payments and the tax regime. One of the key points is the Unified Tax Administration. Currently, we have multiple tax agencies, and this multiple tax agency leads to overlap in the tax jurisdiction, which invariably leads to double taxation. And there are issues, especially in VAT collection. But with the proposed replacement of the FIRS with the National Revenue Service, there will be a unified tax administration. And with the deployment of the fiscal devices, this would also ease tax collection with the fiscalization of VAT supply. This will ease payments, which will be greatly appreciated by everybody, both individuals, both the corporate taxpayers. Then we also have the corporate tax adjustments. With the corporate tax adjustment, the current corporate tax is layered from the large companies paying 30% to the small companies that are being exempted. But with the proposed reform oncoming, we just have two grade of companies, large companies and small companies. Already, this has simplified everything for the layman. There's no where do I fall into, where don't I fall into. And then with the minimum threshold for the small companies being increased to 50 million, it has already said there's ease of payment, there's more cash available, and the complaint from everybody will be reduced. We can go on, but I know that this will make cash much more available. And with cash being much more available for operation, it will definitely ease payment for all strata of persons involved.
And then looking at our taxation dynamics, you just talked about a very critical part of it, the companies and the simplification. Threshold of above 50 million naira and will be taxed, while large companies are there that also have their components of taxation. Will this improve compliance in terms of payment? Will it achieve the design to enhance revenue generation and economic stability? Will it spur more companies and businesses to take seriously tax payment and, of course, compliance?
Yes, it would. Currently in the field, what we encounter is the taxpayers they know they should pay. They are willing to pay. But the challenge we always have is availability of cash to make payment. With what is on ground, one, the compliance cost already is high. But with what is on ground, compliance will be greatly enhanced because cost is reduced. And with the graduated reduction of tax from 30%, 27.5%, gradually coming to rest as 25%, which will be at play with the international global practice, opening up the economy for international foreign investment. We'll find out that more companies will be willing to comply because there's inflow of cash into the economy. So definitely to increase compliance. But then when we're talking about compliance, we have to know that there should be high sensitization of the populace, because right now there's a lot of resistance and push towards this because of the sensitization is very low. So with sensitization, everybody will find out that compliance is better. Then when you come to the individuals, the personal income tax, we have also seen that the threshold has already increased for minimum tax due to the increment of minimum salary being 70,000 right now.
Yeah.
That means that minimum tax for the individual has also been lifted, been increased. We also find out that the graduated payments currently we have for in the PIT would no more be at play. Although we as tax practitioners, one of the challenge we have is the bill is very silent when it comes to the CRA, the consolidated relief. But we know that this will be worked out. The compliance will definitely increase with the current trend of things, because another thing is the enhanced tax infrastructure. With the uniformization of the tax administration, companies don't need to be looking at where do I have to pay my tax, who do I have to pay to. The electronic device system and the fiscalization already says that from inception of your economic transaction, from cradle to grave of your transaction has already been captured, and the money collection is easier with this thing. And then we also need that the taxpayers also will see that the perceived tax system is fair and transparent. And once something is fair and transparent, even the layman wants to be able to partake in that system. So compliance from the taxpayer's point of view and from the tax practitioner is envisaged to be easier, simpler, and accessible to the common man on the street.
Before I let you go, Mrs. Yunis, I just want to add this. As a professional, one that understands the ecosystem and how, of course, we are really pushing to deepen our tax base, even the tax to GDP ratio. We've targeted 15%. And of course, how can we widen the tax base? Because, I mean, that has been the word over time. It's not just increasing taxes, but with these reforms, how do you see us deepening and widening the tax net?
Okay, that's a very wonderful question, Mr. Otto. Now, let me explain to the layman and from the layman's point of view. Widening the tax net is ensuring that everybody that should pay tax is paying tax. Let me just use the VAT reform system as a case study. With the new VAT reform system that is going to be put in place, already there will be a tax refund on VAT. And to ensure that this tax refund on VAT is carried through, from inception, there will be an account put aside for VAT refund from the National Revenue System. Now, from when you start the economic activity, you are supposed to ensure that everything is entered into the system. Already, the FRS has already started piloting the system with some large taxpayers who are very excited. Now, when every economic system is entered from the inception, everybody that follows that value chain will be captured. And when everybody is captured with what the framework the president has on ground, you will find out that it will leave little or nobody that would not be on that tax net. Invariably, the tax net is being expanded and everybody will come into that tax net and also reap from the dividend in the long run. I have no doubt that if this is seen through with the current reform and the proposed reform, everybody that undergoes all form of economic activities will come into the tax net.
Yes. And most importantly, it will be a fair tax system to all. Very important.
It will be. It will be. It's you and I that will drive it. So it will be.
From a business perspective, does the proposed tax reform bill, the 2024, encourage more private sector activities, especially from manufacturing to even the activities of the MSMEs in the country?
I think it's positive for the private sector. First, there is the issue about the simplification of the tax regime. there's the issue about the reduction of the number of taxes, because right now we have the number is rather unwieldy. There's also the positive component which has to do with concessions around withholding taxes, for manufacturers, for their inputs and so on. So even there are some that are already even been gazetted, have been implemented. Those components of the tax reform that does not require, legislation. I mean, some of those things have already been implemented, particularly around withholding tax.
Yes,
yes. So there are quite a number of positives, in the tax reform, and of course, with respect to VAT, I think the scope of exemption has also been expanded. To exempt some critical products that have implications for the welfare of the people, and some of them, many more of them have been exempted from VAT. So there are quite a number of improvements that are contained there, but because of the size of the document and sometimes because of the technical nature of those bills, it takes some painstaking efforts, to read it thoroughly, to be able to, distill and identify all the critical elements and positive contents that are in the bill.
I know it's a robust document, but of course, the feedback we're getting from what you're saying shows that it poses a good signal that with further deliberations, we can really get a very good document that will be signed into law that transforms the whole tax landscape, owing to the work of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms. Well, let's take it from the economic view. Of course, the pushback from the states on the proposed 2024 tax reform bill from the VAT component. What is your perspective on this from the VAT component and other salient issues that have been raised at the recent National Economic Council meeting?
Well, first of all, when we are dealing with these kind of issues, we need to be sensitive to the political context of these issues. Otherwise, that may put the entire initiative at risk. And we don't want a situation where we'll be throwing away the baby with the bathwater.
Yes.
There are some elements of it that looks politically sensitive. And as much as possible, I think we should avoid, we should see how we can expunge those provisions. And one of the provisions was what the northern governors were raising issues about. And it has to do with the distribution of the VAT proceeds. Now, there's something positive about that. Let me say that up front, because the proposal in the bill is to raise the percentage of the VAT proceeds that goes to the states from 50 to 55%, and reducing the percentage that goes to the federal from 15 to 10%. I think that is positive for all the states, all the state governments. But the challenge has to do with the derivation principle in the allocation or in the distribution of the VAT proceeds.
Yes.
The bill is saying that 60% of the VAT proceeds will have to be distributed based on derivation. So now, if you talk about derivation, no matter what you say, because I think I heard the argument from the committee that the derivation will now be based on where the goods are consumed, not where the VAT was collected. Whichever way you look at it, there's likely to be a pushback because there are wide disparities across the country. I'm talking of geographically now.
Yes.
In terms of the economic capacity, in terms of purchasing power, capacity to consume, and even capacity to collect. So if you are saying that this where it is consumed, of course, in a place like Zamfara or Gombe, how much can they consume there? Because the purchasing power in those locations are very weak compared to a place like Lagos or your state or Delta or somewhere. If raise it on where it is collected. Of course, it will favor places like Lagos and all of that. So that area is a politically sensitive area. It can be very tricky and it can be very contentious. So it is better to avoid contentious provisions in the Act. For me, I think it should just allow the status quo to remain as far as this distribution thing is concerned, so that you don't put at risk much more fundamental provisions that are beneficial or that could be beneficial to the economy and to business and even to citizens.
Yes.
So that would be my submission to that.
Yes, you're right, because our other guests in this conversation, Mrs. Yunis has said it, that the VAT component also provides opportunities for citizens through the personal income tax, where a lot of exemptions are there. So, like you rightly said, let us make this a very workable, fair, just system. And I hope that that will be on the watchword of both the executive and, of course, the legislature. Do you agree with the position of the presidency that the bills should still go through the legislative process and public hearing than the withdrawal request from the governors?
Well, you see, the withdrawal request was anchored on the need for further consultation.
Yes.
And on the need to build consensus.
Yes, very important.
Now, the National Assembly platform is also a good platform for consultation and to build consensus. So fundamentally, I think there is no difference between the two positions, because the ultimate objective is to broaden consultation.
Yes.
And all the states have representatives in the National Assembly. So they can consult with their governors and engage appropriately on the floor of the National Assembly.
Yes.
So this does not take anything away from the consultative proposition or consensus building proposition of NEC. I'm talking of the governors. It doesn't take anything away. So the consultative process will still continue, and that, I'm sure, will meet the objectives of the aspirations of the state governments. And those elements that are contentious can be taken out at the level of the National Assembly. The National Assembly can consult with the governors, and I know that all the senators and representatives are also close to the governors of their states. So that channel of consultation and consensus building is still open. So that can be explored at the level of the National Assembly. But let me also caution that, as much as possible, this is not the time to be raising any tax. I've not gone through the entire bill in details, but I know that the government is also desirous about raising revenue and all of that. We can be talking about efficiency of collection, efficiency of tax administration, but this is not the time. Even all this proposal about increasing VAT, we should put it on pause, because there's a program that I think from 2025 and so on, there's a program of gradual incremental increase in VAT.
Yes.
Let us put everything on pause, because the economic situation is extremely very challenging for everybody. And when you talk about increasing VAT, whether it is necessary, I mean, it's not something that the current mood of the nation, of businesses, of the economy will support. Because businesses are taking a lot of heat from this forex issue. They are not out of it yet. They are taking a lot of heat from energy costs. Now we are in almost a fully deregulated regime. You know the implications of that. The citizens are groaning, the businesses are complaining. We have the issue of cargo clearance at the ports. We are still using this market rate to compute import duty. It's still putting a lot of pressure. So you have multiple pressures from so many angles. So until we're able to ease those pressures, we should not be thinking or contemplating any increase in taxes for now. That should be my humble submission.
Thank you very much, Dr. Muda Yusuf, CEO for the Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise, for really advocating, as you always do, for the private sector. It's very important that we have a fair tax system that's inclusive.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Muda Yusuf, for the time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Yunis Igwe-Bernard, of course, senior tax advisor for SIAO Partners. It's been very interesting having this conversation with you, and we look forward to more conversations as we look at how the tax reform bill process takes shape in the days to come. Thank you once again for the time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Otto. It was nice being with you on this platform.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So viewers, if you want to get further insights on this conversation, visit the Perisha website displayed on the screen and follow our social media platforms to engage further on this program. Until you come your way again, enrich yourself with the knowledge of socioeconomic developments around you. It is wise. I'm Ottoabasi Abasiekong. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.